want to get to this, and I always get tired of talking about Trump, but we got to cover all this shit. So anyway, Jeffrey Epstein, very famous pedophile, probably the most famous pedophile in the world. Recently, I mean, he's been dead for a while, but recently documents have come out from his previous court filings. They were released by a judge. They were released early. And they have more connections between him and Trump. Now, nothing in there was accusatory towards Trump, but Trump was listed in there. Bill Clinton was listed in there. Prince Andrew was listed in there. But Trump was a lot closer to Jeffrey Epstein. They were closer friends than Trump admitted, or would previously believed. And this hasn't been getting a lot of press lately. It's more still about Biden in the debate thing from a couple of weeks ago. But I think it should be in the press, and so does Ted Lieu. And here's Ted Lieu to try and illustrate that point for us.
So like Chairman Aguilar said, we hear a lot from our constituents on different issues, but something I've heard that doesn't seem to be being covered are the Epstein files. These files were released, and like Donald Trump's sort of all over this, right? There are pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein. He's taken multiple plane flights with Epstein with young girls on board. He is on call logs with Epstein. One of the highest trending hashtags on Twitter right now is about Trump and Epstein. I'm not going to repeat the hashtag because we're in a dignified setting. But yeah, y'all might want to look at that because that's highly disturbing. And again, it shows that Donald Trump is unfit for office. And by the way, he was convicted in a civilian court for sexual assault, convicted in a separate court of 34 felonies. Donald Trump should drop out of the race.
And he's absolutely right. But the Republicans don't have the dignity or the moral values to do it. They're not going to ask him to drop out. But it brings it back to this, and this is why I think this is important, because we've covered this, because the sexual assault shit bugs me. But let a guy run for office with this kind of stuff. He should be in prison. Because he's had a lot of sexual... We went through some of them. There were like 28 real credible ones. He settled a bunch out of court by paying women off. But there was one that was really kind of disturbing that led to some of their accusations that this was a long-term trend. So him and Epstein had a falling out sometime after he married Melania in like 2005. But we knew he was friends with Epstein back in the early 90s. So he was friends with Epstein for over a decade. Now, was it just sort of I knew the guy, casual guy, he was a golf buddy kind of thing, but I don't really know much about him other than that? Well, could have been. That's sort of how Trump played it off. But it turns out, like Ted Lieu said, no, Trump's calling Epstein a lot, especially in the early 2000s. They're hanging out a lot. They're hanging out, going to parties a lot. He's on Epstein's plane. Epstein's going to his casino back in the 90s and taking underage girls with him. And in 1994, there was a huge accusation that, it came out later, but in 94, that Trump raped a girl that was 13. It was actually 3 girls. But one girl came forward and then later dropped it because she was scared, which is understandable. You're going after a very wealthy, powerful guy like that. And then she brought it up again later on and then started getting death threats, and her attorney's computer got hacked. And so she was afraid she'd get doxxed and she'd get murdered, or her family would get murdered, so she dropped that case too. So it was really just an accusation. And there was some question about, well, how valid is the accusation? How good or not is it, or whatnot? Well, now we know there's a lot of backing to that, because he was pretty close to Jeffrey Epstein. So I want to go into this case real quick, because we've covered it. So this was from Vox. This is from a while ago. This is back from 2016. Okay? So the lawsuit accusing Trump of raping a 13-year-old girl explained, okay, the anonymous plaintiff dropped her lawsuit against Trump, the circumstances which have been bizarre, okay? So, let's see if you guys can see this well enough. I'll zoom in a little bit. So 15 women have now gone on record, it's now 28, to say that Donald Trump sexually assaulted them. Out of all of their stories, one is the most explosive and bizarre woman who says Trump violently raped her at an orgy when she was just 13 years old, but the horrific details of her accusation have gotten the least attention. It seemed that was all going to change Wednesday when the woman, who has gone by the pseudonym Katie Johnson or Jane Doe, was set to appear at a press conference at the law offices of Lisa Bloom, her attorney. a high-profile civil rights attorney and TV commentator, but the woman didn't come to the press conference. Bloom told a room full of waiting reporters that Johnson was afraid to show her face after receiving multiple death threats and that they would have to reschedule. Then on Friday, Bloom announced that Johnson had dropped her lawsuit. So this is Lisa Bloom's tweet. Jane Doe instructed us to dismiss her lawsuit against Trump and Epstein today. Tough week for her. We wish her well. Followed up, every woman makes her own choice about what is best for her life. Life's a journey. Most of us get stronger as we get older. I respect women. I mean, I get it. She's scared. It's not uncommon for victims. This is just me reading. It's not uncommon for victims of sexual assault to want to preserve their anonymity. And dropping a lawsuit doesn't mean admitting the case had no merit. Jill Harth, who sued Trump for sexual assault in 1997, still stands by her claims, even though she dropped the lawsuit. And it would indeed have been an intense couple of days for Johnson. Bloom said that her firm's website was hacked that Anonymous, right, the whatever internet guy, had claimed responsibility, and that death threats and bomb threats came afterwards. So that was dropped, and she basically claimed that they were in an orgy thing. Trump raped her. Then Jeffrey Epstein got angry at her because he wanted to take her virginity, kind of thing. There were some charges about Trump getting upset or maybe even physically violent with her because she didn't know how to give oral sex. This is not uncommon kind of stuff, and it is sort of par for the course, because if you read his first wife's book, Ivana, she describes a pretty violent rape when he raped her. Of course, she didn't press charges. She kind of tried to walk it back some, but she describes it in pretty good detail. When you hear Stormy Daniels' description of what happened, when you hear Trump talking about grabbing by the pussy, and then you see Trump at all these, he's got the Miss America and Miss Teen, or Miss Teen USA and Miss USA, and he's talking about to Howard Stern about how, yeah, all these girls that are 16, 17, and I'm going backstage while they're naked so I can check them out. He's partying on boats with all these young women. All of his wives have been really young. He's always talked about how he only dates young women. He talked about Epstein. He knew Epstein pretty well and said, oh yeah, Epstein likes younger women. Just to remind you, here's that old video of Trump partying with Epstein back in, this is 92. All right, so we know they were friends up until probably about 2005-ish, so over a decade. The young girls there. So just wanted to remind you of that. I also want to remind you that back in '94, when this alleged rape happened with the young woman, just to remind you, Trump has a daughter, and in 1994, Ivanka would have just been turning 13, and just to give you a reminder, here's his daughter, Ivanka, with his first wife in 1994. So he's raping women that are the same age, or girls, sorry, that are the same age, allegedly, as his daughter. Just want to give you that picture. So when you tell your friends, right, they vote for Trump, this is who you're voting for. So I just wanted to hit that. I think that's important to bring that up. That, the guy is a rapist. He was found to be a rapist by a jury. He's settled out of court many, many times for sexual assault. That's just who he is.